So, hello there, and welcome back to yet another Night of the Movies podcast. And in these podcasts, I talk all things movies and TV, and whatever I want, whenever I want. And in today's podcast, I'm reviewing the new Eddie Murphy Christmas film, Candy Cane Lane. But just before I do that, I should say what's the start of every podcast I do, which is, if you are watching this podcast on YouTube, hello to my viewers. But if you prefer to listen to your podcast on Spotify, well, you are in luck, as you can listen to this podcast on Spotify at Night of the Movies on that platform. And if you are already listening to this podcast on Spotify, hello there to podcast listeners, then you can also check this podcast out visually on my YouTube channel at Night of the Movies on that platform as well. Likewise, wherever you may be watching or listening to the podcast, don't forget to like and subscribe if you enjoy the podcast, of course. And as ever, please leave me with some feedback on things to improve on, as there are always things to improve on, and feedback is, as ever, much appreciated. So, let's get into it, shall we? Candy Cane Lane. So, as I've already said, this is a new Eddie Murphy Christmas film, and that is literally the only reason I was interested in seeing it, because last week I watched Trading Places for the first time, which is another Eddie Murphy starring in Christmas film, and that was great. I really liked that. Dan Aykroyd and Eddie Murphy, they swap places. It's quite a clever film, and actually gets to quite a clever conclusion, and I ended up having a far better time with that film than I expected to. And then I saw that there was a new Eddie Murphy Christmas film out on Prime Video, and I thought, why not give it a go? It could be a lot of fun. There was somebody I followed online who said the film was actually better than he thought it was going to be, so I thought, let's give it a go, because it might be one of those Christmas films which just ends up working for me, even though it's a bit stupid. Like, for example, the Santa Claus 2, I actually really enjoy that film, even though it's not great. You know, there's a lot of people out there who don't like the Santa Claus 2 with Tim Allen. I think it's a lot of fun, and I was hoping for Candy Cane Lane to have the same outcome for me. And the IMDB plot synopsis for the film goes as follows. A man is determined to win the neighborhood's annual Christmas decorating contest. He makes a pact with an elf to help him win, and the elf casts a spell that brings the 12 days of Christmas to life, which brings unexpected chaos to the town. And that's pretty much all you need to know about the film before you see it. And also, it's quite a good plot synopsis, actually. You know, the whole idea of the 12 days of Christmas coming to life. But, honestly, this film is not that good. It has its moments, and I liked how creative it was trying to be. And there are parts of the film which I thought were kind of fun to watch, and it's not offensively awful like some Christmas films are, but at the same time though, it feels like an excessive Christmas stocking of a film that lasts for way too long, with comedy and jokes that we've seen done so many times before, and with no Christmas magic. Even though this film is trying to do so much and is trying to have that Christmas magic, you know, you can really feel that this film has all the best intentions. It just comes across as dull, and I don't really know why. Well, I do know why, and I'll get on to a bit later in this podcast. But I don't think the film has that Christmas magic which it wants to, and it's trying to do way too much. It's trying to have this film about the family Christmas, you know, the family are all facing troubles at Christmas, and they're trying to have the best Christmas as possible, even so they're in all this turmoil. Then it's trying to do this Christmas film about all these Christmas decorations coming to life. Then it's trying to do this Christmas film about this one mischievous sort of Christmas creature who is trying to ruin Christmas for people. Then it's trying to do the Christmas film about the Christmas decoration contest, and then it's trying to do the Christmas film about the annoyingly perfect neighbours. It's trying to do all these Christmas films in one, and none of it really comes together, and it ends up just coming across as unnecessarily excessive. Because there are parts of the film which I think if they focused on a lot more, it would have been better, but the entire film is completely unfocused because it's pulling in all these different directions, and there are things to admire. Eddie Murphy, who I love, I recently, well, yeah, not too long ago actually, a good couple of months ago, I watched Beverly Hills Cop for the first time on Netflix. That film was so fun to watch, and I think he's the main reason it was such a great watch. And I've always loved him as a voice of Donkey and Shrek, and I loved him in Trading Places. I haven't seen him in a lot of films, I must admit. But what I have seen him in, I have enjoyed him in, and he's good in this film. You can tell he's having fun. Well, it looks like he's having fun. I can't even speak. He looks like he's having fun playing the character he does in this film. The family, the actors who play the family, don't do a bad job. There was some alright CGI in the film. Some genuinely good CGI with these metal-like ornament Christmas characters that come to life, and I liked that idea. I thought the whole idea of these Christmas decorations coming to life and some of them actually communicating with Eddie Murphy's character and Eddie Murphy's family in the film worked quite well. Not all of it around that works well, but I thought that element did. The film has a nice cameo from Nick Offerman, who I will always remember and love from Parks and Recreation, in which he played Ron Swanson, the best character in that show, in my opinion. And there are some good musical moments in the film too, with the son of this family. There are some good musical moments which I quite enjoyed because they felt creative and it felt like the film was trying to do something different, trying to stand out against other family Christmas films. I don't think it does in the end, but it felt like it was trying to do something different. And the whole film feels like it's trying to do something different. And I admire it for what it is trying to do. But it just doesn't really work. The film is way too long. It's around the 2-hour mark. And the thing is, a certain character, and I won't give away who, because it is a bit of a spoiler, but a certain character shows up at about the 90-minute mark, and I thought, oh, they've showed up, that means we're getting close to the end of this film now. No, we're not. There was still like half an hour to 40 minutes left of the film, and it was like everything from the kitchen sink was being thrown at the finale. It's like, we're going to have this happening, this happening, this happening, this happening, this happening, and it's all trying to tie all these plot lines together, but in actuality it just doesn't, and it makes the end of the film feel overcooked and like one big mishmash of all the different ideas in the film we've had so far, and it's also really messy. The third act of the film is very messy to the point that you sit down like, I'm not sure who I'm meant to care about, where I'm following, and who I'm meant to be following, and yeah, it really doesn't work that well, and the script also isn't that well written, which is a shame, because I think when Eddie Murphy is given a good script, he can really play around with it and make it funny, and he's trying his best to make the comedy in the film funny, but much like Next Girl Wins, which isn't a Christmas film, but a film which I viewed a couple of days ago on this channel, the film just isn't funny. I smiled at a couple of moments because I admired what they were trying to do. They were trying to make the film funny, and you can tell Eddie Murphy's trying his best. You can really tell, but the film just isn't funny. The comedy didn't work for me. I mean, comedy is the most subjective thing probably ever, one of the most subjective things. So I can see why people might enjoy the comedy in the film, but for me, it's jokes I've already seen done before, and I could see a lot of jokes coming from a mile away. And then when they hit that destination, when the jokes hit the destination that I thought they were going to hit from a mile away, it just wasn't funny. I sat there going, yeah, saw that joke coming, cool, okay, let's move on to the next one, okay, saw that joke coming, oh, and I just saw that joke coming, oh, and that's not as funny, it's actually done funnier in a different film. And at the same time, I must admit, I didn't really like the music in the film. It's sort of the same problem. I had the same problem with the music for this film as I did with the music for Dumb Money, which came out earlier this year. And there were parts of Dumb Money which I really liked, but I actually felt that the soundtrack to that film I felt that the soundtrack to Dumb Money was letting that film down, because the songs were, for me, quite annoying, and I don't really like modern day music, I've got to admit. I did a video on the newest Beatles song a couple of days ago, which shows you what type of music I'm into, you know, and there were songs in Dumb Money which honestly made me want to just put my hands on my ears whilst I was watching the film, because I couldn't stand the music, and I felt similar about the music in this film. You know, I'm not somebody who's into rap music, I'm not somebody who's into the type of music that's used in this film. I'm not really someone that's into the type of music used in this film, and for that reason, it made it a bit more engaging than I wanted to. Like, if different songs were used, I may have got into it more. I don't know, maybe not. But the point I'm making is the music made it more engaging, because the film itself isn't that engaging. Everything is very superficial. The characters don't have much depth to them. I'm not going into this film expecting a Christmas Carol or It's a Wonderful Life or, a solid Christmas classic. I'm not expecting that, but I want the characters to actually have a bit more going for them. I don't want them to just be superficial. Like Spirited, which I reviewed on this channel last week. That film was great because it did add depth to the characters. You found things out about, say, Ryan Reynolds' character in that film, which added a lot to the film, to the emotional sense of the film. You don't really get that from any of the characters in this film, not even Eddie Murphy. And you find out at the start of the film that he lost his job. That is literally the saddest thing you find out about him in this film. And then he doesn't really seem to care about it throughout the rest of the film, though. And I didn't care about it because he didn't care about it. Plus, the film is also pulling all these different directions, as I've already mentioned. And there's a bit of Deck the Halls in there. The film with Matthew Broderick and Danny DeVito, where they compete for who has the best Christmas decorations in the house. There's that in there. And at the same time, though, you have the family Christmas film, which reminded me a lot of Christmas with the Cranks, which had, Tim Allen and Jamie Lee Curtis and Dan Aykroyd. And, the film reminded me a lot of those two films. And even though I'm not the biggest fan of Christmas with the Cranks, I don't think it's that good. And even so, I did a huge rant on this channel a couple of years ago about Deck the Halls. I would probably watch those films over this film, though, because they feel, I don't know, there's something about those films where, they're bad, but they're also fun to watch. And I don't think this film has that. I just think it's taking a lot of ideas off both of those films and not doing it particularly well. And I was sat there thinking, Deck the Halls has done the whole Christmas decoration idea better, in my opinion. And I also think it helps that you have Matthew Broderick and Danny DeVito in that film, because they make it somewhat enjoyable to watch. And even so, Eddie Murphy's in this film, and I love Eddie Murphy. And the one who plays the mother in the film, I forgot the name of the actress off the top of my head right now, but she was in the TV show Blackish, and I didn't really like that show. The comedy just didn't really work for me in that show, but she was good in that series. But even though you have some good actors in this film, it's like they're not... It just doesn't have that same sort of... I don't know what I'm trying to say. It doesn't have that same feeling that Deck the Halls has, because Deck the Halls, when you're watching it, is a terrible film. It's absolutely awful, but at the same time, though, you can't take your eyes away from it because of everything going on, and I haven't seen a film like that, and Candy Cane Lane doesn't have that. You can tell it's trying to be a good Christmas movie. You can tell it's trying, and Deck the Halls feels like, after a while, it just sort of leans into the film it is. It leans into the fact that it is this silly and wacky film, whilst Candy Cane Lane doesn't really do that, in my opinion. And at the same time, though, the funny thing is, it is a very silly and wacky film, and at times it feels cartoonish. It feels like a cartoon come to life, and I don't mean that in a good way at all, because I was watching parts of the film, and there was this overuse of CGI. Like, the CGI in the film isn't bad, really. It's not great, but it's not that bad. I've seen worse CGI in films earlier this year. Maybe To the Trench, anyone? But yeah, the CGI in the film isn't that bad. But there's way too much of it, and it makes the film feel more wacky and comical than it really deserves to be. And the whole stuff with the 12 Days of Christmas coming to life and coming after Eddie Murphy's character and his family doesn't really work, and the film is just tonally all over the place, and it feels like this long checklist of things to include in a Christmas film. You have the family having trouble at Christmas with the kids all wanting to do different things, the dad's having money problems, the mom is trying to get promotion with a job. you're gonna have that in a Christmas film, because that's in all those Walmart Christmas movies, isn't it? The parents are always struggling or something like that. So you're gonna have that. So that's taken off the checklist. You're gonna have the wacky sort of Christmas idea of the evil elf trying to ruin somebody else's Christmas. You're gonna have the Christmas decoration contest, and then you're gonna have all these different ideas. You're gonna have the funny moments that are actually not that funny. You've got to have all these different things going on in a Christmas film, and it feels like one long checklist of things needed in a Christmas film, and none of it really feels natural. None of it really feels like we got there because the narrative was taking us there. It feels like a checklist. Like, let's include that, 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 because it's all included in a Christmas film in the past. And if we do all that, people like it. But actually, a lot of all the plotting and all the storylines and all these different ideas, like the Christmas decorations coming to life and the 12 days of Christmas coming to life, they all just feel forced, and none of it, the way certain storylines come together feels very contrived. And again, I wasn't expecting brilliance from this film, but it could have been fun like Spirited was. Spirited, I don't think is a brilliant Christmas film by any means. I read it last week and I had a lot of fun with that film, but I don't think it's going to be one of the most memorable Christmas films further down the line. And I was hoping to have a similar experience watching this film, and the thing is though, I really didn't. It doesn't have that same joy that Spirited does. It doesn't have that same... I mean, I wouldn't say Spirited is a very magical Christmas film, but it's more magical than this film, which is odd to say because you can tell this film wants to be magical. It wants one of those magical Christmas films which people are going to tune into every Christmas and remember in years and years to come. You can tell it's trying, and I admired it so much for that. And I can really see families sitting down and kids getting something out of this film. I can see kids enjoying it, but it's just... I tell you what it feels like. It feels like a very sugary, too sweet piece of Christmas chocolate that is fine to eat. It's not horrible to eat. You don't really dislike it whilst you're eating it. But then once you finish the overly sweet Christmas chocolate, you never ever ever want to have it again, and you move on to the next piece of Christmas chocolate that is probably going to be better. Not sure how well that metaphor works, but you get the point. You know, the film, it isn't an awful watch. It really isn't. I was watching it going, and it's fine. Nothing's annoying me that much, but nothing's also working for me that much. And as soon as I finished it, I was like, I'm going to have to review that tomorrow on this channel, because I watched it yesterday. I'm going to have to review that tomorrow on this channel. I don't really remember much about it. That was last night after I finished it, and after I was making my notes in it for this review today. Yeah, it's a very big mishmash of all these different films. Moreover, it's also very fluffy. There are no stakes and there are no depth to the film, and it's one of those films where everybody, is hugging at the end, and there's all these smiles and all the characters are very one-dimensional. It just, nothing in the film really works that well. It's not awful, as I've already said, but it just feels like a checklist of all these different ideas to put in a Christmas film, all these different things we have to put in a Christmas film. It's pulling all these different directions. It wants to be all these other Christmas films as well that aren't that good to start off with. Like, it wants to be Deck the Halls, it wants to be Christmas with the Cranks. It's also trying to be original and creative and trying to do something different with this idea of these Christmas ornament people coming to life, and that's not a bad idea, but it just doesn't really gel with the rest of the film. You have parts of the film which are focusing on the troubles that the kids in this family are going through, in their adolescent life, and those parts weren't bad at times, but they didn't gel with this whole idea of the Christmas ornaments coming to life or the 12 days of Christmas coming to life. I don't know, it's a weird mishmash of different ideas, and some of it isn't bad. It's a watchable film, but it could have been better. It could have been better, and you can feel that it's trying. You can really feel it is. but it's an unnecessarily excessive Christmas checklist with no magic. And that's ultimately why I left pretty, well, I was about to say pretty disappointed in this film. I wasn't highly anticipating anything with this film, being completely honest. But it is why I left this film almost forgetting about it immediately. And so, all in all, I'm going to say that Candy Cane Lane, I'm going to say that it's a 3 out of 10. Funnily enough, I did enjoy this film more than Next Girl Wins, which I gave a 2 out of 10, which I reviewed earlier this week. I did enjoy this film more than that, because it felt like it was trying to work, you know? And I can see why some people would enjoy it. I can see why families would sit down and put this film on, or maybe put it on in the background whilst they're putting up the Christmas decorations, if you haven't done that yet. And by the way, if you haven't put up the Christmas decorations yet, what the hell are you doing? But still, I can see why certain people would put this on around the Christmas period, and kids would enjoy it. It's a sort of film which is fluffy. There's nothing offensively bad about it, but there are much better Christmas films to put on around the Christmas period. That's the point I'm making, and this isn't anything memorable. And it could have been. You have Eddie Murphy in the lead role, and Eddie Murphy's great. And I can't wait to see him in the next Beverly Hills Cop film next year. You know, I've grown to like Eddie Murphy a lot over the past year because I've seen him in more films other than the voiceover role that he does in Shrek. And I mean, I really wanted to love him in this film, but I just didn't really care about his character. We find out that he's lost his job. There is no other reason to care about him, other than the fact that he's a family man. I like the fact that he's a family man, but what else? Give me something else to latch on to, you know? And I felt similar to the rest of the family. They're just very one-dimensional. All the characters are. Even the villain, this mischievous, evil kind of elf, you know, it just felt with her that it was an insert villain here sort of villain. You know what I mean? Like, the film was the screenplay writer, I don't know who they are, and I don't think they deserve the credit, by the way, because I don't think this is a well-written film, but it felt like the people who wrote this film were like, oh, we need a villain, we need to make him Christmassy, why not come up with a evil, and, well, why not come up with a mischievous kind of evil elf? Why don't we do that? Okay, insert villain here, and I didn't really care about the villain. What's she called? Peppermint. I didn't really care about her. In fact, I found her annoying, and everything else in the film I actually felt might have worked better if she wasn't in it. Don't think the villain is that good. Not awful, has its moments, couple of good ideas in there, and I liked its creativity, and you can tell, you know, this is a film that screams good intentions, but it just doesn't work. It just doesn't work because it's overly excessive, and overly unnecessarily excessive at that, and it feels like a Christmas checklist of all the things to include in a Christmas movie. It doesn't feel like any of that comes natural to the film. It's pulling all these different directions. It doesn't really come together. The finale is overcooked and overdone to the point that you sit there and you get a bit of a headache from it, and it just doesn't have that magic, which you can tell the film wants. The film wants to have that magic, but it just doesn't, because of all those reasons. And so, all in all, I'm going to say, as I've already said, I'm going to say that Candy Cane Lane is a 3 out of 10 from me. Anyway, guys, that's it for today's podcast. If you have seen Candy Cane Lane and you enjoyed it, that is great. Please let me know why you might have enjoyed it in the comment section below, because I always love it when somebody likes or, you know, loves a film more than I do. And if you did really enjoy this film, then please let me know why in the comment section below, because I'm all for diversity of opinion because I'm all for hearing people's different opinions on films. But if you feel similar to me, Also, let me know in the comment section below whatever your thoughts are on Candy Cane Lane. Please let me know in the comment section below. And if you haven't yet, please click down below and like and subscribe on this podcast. And look forward to many more podcasts on this channel. If you guys haven't said this yet, thank you so much for watching or listening to this podcast. And I suppose that's it. So I will see you guys again soon. But bye for now. Bye.